Welcome to Vancouver's Stanley Park. I'm Chris Gailus. Stanley Park is unique, considered by many to be Vancouver's crown jewel. 8 million visitors come here every year to experience this vast forest within an urban setting. The following decades will be a flourishing era for Stanley Park. A forest management plan has been put in place designed to restore the forests and ecosystems. The storm hit in the middle of the night, but almost immediately witnesses started calling local media to report what was happening in the park. It wasn't until the next morning that we saw the full scale of devastation here. Our story begins on a very windy night in December 2006.
There's probably 6 trees down right now. We're losing stuff now. I want you to turn around and leave, please. I've got everything close.
All the park roads were impassable. You couldn't just do a quick tour around the park. The level of damage at the Georgia Street entrance was such, it was completely impassable.
We couldn't even get in entry down Pipeline Road because there were large groups of trees fallen and pinning down the trolley wires. And we had to cut our way through that with the help of a crane.
All of the power was out in that part of the city, including our building, and the building was cold, and the level of devastation was quite horrific.
The actual damage to the park didn't really set in until the following day when we realized, oh God, this is much bigger than we had thought. We had 10,000 trees down. We started to say to ourselves, look, this is beyond the ability of our little happy gang that run the park board. We need expertise. And then we're going to need a massive financial boost.
We were getting a lot of response from the public. They wanted to help. They wanted to come and volunteer. How can I help? I'll come and help move the trees. People wanted to donate money.
We were trying to determine the extent of the forest blowdowns in the middle of the forest as opposed to just the sections that had impacted the roads.
We were able to jump aboard media helicopters and get some freebie overflights.
The media should get an A+ because they were truly allies in this project, and we could not have accomplished what we accomplished without their support.
We can see that there are opportunities that will become lasting legacies for the park as we return Stanley Park to the community.
In 2007 and 2008, this park was transformed. Some of the changes were visible, like renewed trails, but many of the most valuable advancements were behind the scenes.
My first interest in working with the park and their question for me was how do we increase the stability of the trees that are left around the edges of these newly created openings within the stand.
It's a rarely done thing, but we used spiral pruning. Climbers spur climb up high into the trees and they remove a prescribed percentage of the branches all the way up.
In the process of pruning out some of the branches, you reduce the wind loading on the trees that are left, and it helps to create a more filtered edge and gives the trees that are left in the stand behind that edge time to begin increasing their wind firmness.
The first and most resource-consuming issue was public safety. And for every one of those 10,000 trees that came down, There was another one that had been damaged but was still standing. A secondary issue was we now had a massive tinder pile on the floor of Stanley Park Forest.
People can accidentally set fires, and that was one of our biggest worries that we had, was with all this downed material from needles, twigs, and branches and logs all stacked up. The conditions were really rife for a significant forest fire.
By the third week after the storm, over 5,000 donors had pledged money. By April, we had about $9 million committed to the project. What I've learned is that people have a very strong connection with the park. I think it provides a sense of permanency in a time of our lives when everything is fast-moving and fast-paced. It evokes a sense of ownership, which I think was one of the reasons people were so quick to open their pocketbooks. Jim Loudon, who was taking the lead on the project, decided that we should have a group of experts to help guide us.
We were physically out there doing some things. On the other hand, we were marshaling the resources to develop a formal written plan that would become endorsed and then would become the basis for our work.
There was a staff committee and there was a group of stakeholders who had an interest in the park.
It was a fantastic opportunity for Stanley Park Ecology Society, a chance for us to not only contribute but also to be learning. There was so much going on. It was just such a busy time, and it was hard to keep up. It was necessary to meet 2, sometimes 3 times a week. We stepped up very quickly to get involved with aspects that we could contribute, creating the environmentally sensitive areas maps and bringing forward information on species at risk.
I was bringing my information forward, that which I'd observed in the field and some of which I knew from my studies and experience in the past. Our biggest blowdown was near Prospect Point, from essentially the water's edge up. We had to start high up on the top of the hill and work our way down. In order to safely address those issues at the seawall level, that was several months.
The storm opened up opportunities to redevelop Prospect Point, which we probably wouldn't have done otherwise, but now Prospect Point is safer, it's more beautiful. Prospect Point has been incredibly improved.
Today's event is all about the arrival of 2 important machines that will assist us.
We had an immense amount of positive media coverage.
We are also here to acknowledge Finning Canada and Caterpillar for providing us with the use of these 2 log loaders.
These things had the ability to reach out and lift a log into the air rather than drag it without doing any damage at all to the surrounding understory.
As the restoration plan started to come to fruition, I could see how it was going to progress. It became a very exciting and hopeful process.
Yeah, it's coming along really well. This is 3 years.
It became clear as we went through the restoration process and the recovery planning exercise that we needed to have a long-term vision of what kind of forest was the right kind of forest for Stanley Park. The group involved in that developed a nice, clear vision of the kind of forest that they wanted for the future. Then becomes the challenge of the long-term series of activities that are necessary to create that kind of forest. And that's where the management plan comes in.
The emphasis is, let's try to make this as close to natural as possible, recognizing that this is a big urban park.
Hi, I'm Chris Gailus in Stanley Park, here to learn more about urban forests and the challenges of maintaining them. So I'm going to bring in Jim Loudon, who spent many years here in Stanley Park looking after the forest. Urban